Welcome to today's webinar, which is on toxic positivity. My name's Hannah, and I'm co-hosting this webinar with my colleague Jenny, who I'll pass over to now to do a quick introduction.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. I'm a therapist at Thrive, so my approach here is to help raise awareness about just the impact, what people are feeling, as well as what toxic positivity is, alongside Hannah. I thought I'd start. When I was thinking about this, I thought one of the stories of my own life came up, and I thought if I told it, it would give you a sense that it would be very nice while we're talking to you, raising awareness, if you just had a think about what this means for your own life, some of the own stories you could tell about the impact of it. When I was younger, it wasn't as it was quite normal actually for if I was on my way to work or something, for I guess predominantly builders, let's be honest, to call out things like "cheer up, love, it may never happen." Now the idea was I was supposed to both find that quite an enjoyable thing to hear. I was supposed to probably smile back, and it was generally accepted that it was okay. The truth is, I was just walking to work. I wasn't smiling. I wasn't not smiling. Usually I didn't respond, and occasionally there would be a sort of follow-up of, "Oh, stuck up, what's wrong with you then? No wonder you're so miserable." So obviously this is a while ago, but that sense that we need to spread this sense that we're happy, that we're okay, that everything's okay, not being able to just be on our way to work. This is really what this webinar is trying to raise awareness of, the impact of it in work, the impact of it for people who are in positions of management and leadership and so on, but the people who are also working, but also from a therapist point of view, outside of that in their lives. So emotional and mental well-being labels are, I think we can all agree, proliferating. And I guess toxic positivity is one of those labels. The trouble with labels is they can normalize things. They can be incredibly valuable in raising awareness and bringing something that's really important to bring into the workplace, into life. But the labels can go several ways, responses to them. They can get seen, heard, listened to, and effectively acted on. They can get seen, pandered to, and ineffectively acted on. Or they can get ignored. And toxic positivity is possibly one of those labels. On the surface, it can be easily explained and responded to. And people do respond, they mean well. Beneath the surface, something more troublesome, even dangerous, is happening to our emotional, physical, and mental well-being. And negative things can be growing in our workplaces, in our social worlds, family, and perhaps most pernicious of all, in ourselves. So what is it? It's the pressure to be cheerful all the time, and the pressure to show it even if you're not feeling it. And that's where the toxic side of it comes. Because, of course, trying to be positive sometimes is fine. Hannah will focus on the workplace side, what it looks like, who's doing it, and the impact it can have. I'm then going to follow on with a broader perspective of understanding where else it's present in our lives, and look at why some of us might be more susceptible to it and being impacted negatively by it than others. And then people can start to learn that it really is not only just it's okay to not be okay, but it's also sometimes quite healthy to know how to be not okay, if that makes sense. So now I'm going to hand back over to Hannah, who's going to focus on the workplace.
Great, thank you, Jenny. And thank you to Sandra as well in the chat. saying how she can relate to you, Jenny, with your story of the builders and how that experience that used to happen. So what I'm going to cover today is looking at hidden risks of toxic positivity in the workplace, how it undermines trust, engagement, and well-being, ways that we can support people authentically, and what we can do as leaders as well, managers, colleagues, as well, to support a more healthier conversation. So Jenny touched on this just now in the intro, but there's some examples of what toxic positivity is. And again, feel free to write some more in the chat if you can think of any. But we've got some up here on the screen. So just stay positive. It could be worse. Everything happens for a reason. We've got this. All of these are common phrases that you may hear. Keep smiling, you'll be fine, chin up, don't be negative. Yeah, there's loads of really good ones coming in. So thank you for adding those as well. So a bit more of a broader question then, and again, feel free to write your comments in the chat, but has anyone here ever felt unable to admit that they were struggling at work, potentially because of the response that they thought they might get? Yep, Sarah says often. So yeah, I imagine it's probably the same for a lot of us on the call. A lot of people saying yes, yes, definitely, in the chat as well. So hopefully we're all on the same page. Thank you for writing those comments in. So why do we fall into the positivity trap? So it does come from having good intentions. So you might have a desire to help someone. You might feel discomfort with dealing with negative emotions. You might feel pressure to appear resilient, especially if you are a leader or manager, or just around your colleagues as well. And you might be a part of a workplace culture that tends to reward optimism, which wouldn't necessarily be unusual. So what can toxic positivity look like at work? So again, these are some examples, but feel free to write some more into the chat if you think of any more. But dismissing stress, celebrating resilience while ignoring a large workload, encouraging employees to just push through, and again, talking about sort of positivity and wellbeing campaigns, just overemphasis on that as well. And obviously, all of these things are gonna or could result in some poor mental health across the workplace. So the hidden costs. This is when people do struggle to be honest with themselves, be honest with their colleagues, their leaders, their team leaders, and their problems become harder to solve. So they start to panic about things, worry about things. They feel very isolated. They feel shameful. They're judgmental. They're self-judgmental. So then at that point is when things can escalate. People start to feel a bit more stressed, a bit more worried, anxious, and mental health challenges start to arise, which obviously is an issue within the workplace for more reasons than one. So we want to try and get on top of that and stop the toxic positivity and start to reframe how we speak to people, how we approach things, and we're going to talk a bit about that as well. So a scenario then that we've got up on the screen. So an employee might say, I'm struggling to keep up. And the manager's response could be, everyone's busy, stay positive. So what do we think is the likely impact of this scenario? What could be done differently? feel free again to write things into the chat. I've seen a lot of messages coming in. People don't listen, turning a stressful situation into a joke. Lots of things being shared. Yet the employee won't ask for help again. A likely impact is the burnout for the employee. Yep, really good one. Thank you for sharing that. Feeling as though you're being dismissed, invalidating their feelings, makes them question themselves. They will feel like they're the ones with the problem. It will spiral. They're not supported. They feel frustrated. Yeah, absolutely. These are all really good comments. And yeah, they won't ask for support again. So then that will obviously be negative for everyone involved. Thank you for sharing those. So some examples then of toxic positivity, and then some examples I'm going to share of what more authentic support could look like. So instead of saying things like, don't worry about it, stay positive, you'll be fine, others have had it worse, you could ask them to explain the situation, tell me more. I understand how you're feeling. That sounds really tough. How can I help? What can I do to help? Sharing your experience is important. These are all ways that people can open up more, feel less isolated, feel like they want to share their experience more, and hopefully, as we've said, not spiral out of control. Thank you to Nicola. That's a funny one that you've put in the chat there. My mother-in-law's favourite is it will all work itself out, but how? Exactly, yeah. It's sometimes not as easy as that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. So what can leaders do? I'm sure we've got a lot of leaders, managers. I think we've got some HR representatives on the call as well. So what can we all do to help and support each other? So as we said on the last slide, we can listen to each other. Just ask people to say how they're feeling and listen to them, appreciate what they're saying, really take that in, validate their emotions, and within yourselves as well, be vulnerable. So, it's not always put on a brave face, it's be honest about your feelings. So then that in turn will encourage your colleagues to do the same. And it's all about kind of changing the culture as well. So create opportunities for honest conversations. We want to have those honest conversations. We don't want people to feel trapped or feel like they can't speak about how they're feeling and feel isolated. So we want to kind of change that culture and make it into a culture of honest conversations, and everyone's allowed to feel what they're feeling. And as Jennie said at the start, it's okay not to feel okay. What can organizations do? So we can, train our managers to have those kinds of conversations. We can, practice what we preach. We don't want to be showing our colleagues and our direct reports that we're overwhelmed with workload and we're not logging off until late into the evening. We want to have realistic workload discussions. We want to promote support services. And like I said, we want to measure the culture, not just engagement. We want to talk about the culture. What do our colleagues feel the culture is like? Do we feel like we can have open conversations with each other? Do we feel stressed? We want to try and change how people are feeling within the workplace. And I think now I'm going to be passing over to Jennie, who's going to look at a more kind of broader aspect of the toxic positivity.
Thanks, Hannah, and thanks for all those really helpful comments you've been making about the workplace. So you're in charge of the slides, so if you could move one on, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. Social media. So all of what's been talked about so far, as a therapist, all of it's coming my way. The impact of toxic positivity in the workplace, the panic, the anxiety, the shame, the self-judgment. And the really difficult thing there is not even necessarily knowing that's what's happening. So big is the self-judgment that it will divert to other things, and it won't even occur to them that simply going to work and not being able to not be okay emotionally. They may be doing their work perfectly well. It's not to do with impact on work. It's just the need to be positive, or the feeling that they do. So what are people carrying around with them that they're taking into the workplace and they're carrying around? Social media is huge. Of course, images, and everybody else looks like they're enjoying themselves. Comparisons. Why is my life not okay? Why am I feeling this? Everybody else seems okay. They don't seem to be worrying. They don't seem to be anything. This is a very, very big thing about comparison of self to others, and being able to separate from it and say it's not true. They are images. It's not true. I'm not different. All those things, and it's very important. The workplace and people in it have a big part to play in this as well. Don't pretend. It's not a good culture. And then, of course, the creating of profiles. Again, everybody else is fine. Well, they're not going to say they're not. Certainly not going to get people to like them. And so it goes. How do we get people to like us? Let's say we're positive. Let's this, let's that. It's so iniquitous that it's everywhere. So there's the social media side. Even that could be a whole webinar in itself. But let's just leave it there. LinkedIn can't stand it. Yeah, definitely. There's some great comments coming on, as a matter of fact, both as just anyway, but as a therapist. Yes, thank you. Family, what a complicated one. So again, a webinar all in itself, if not more. But, even if we feel we grow up in a happy family, parents want their children to be happy. So if we show that we're not, parents may feel like they're failing. It's all meant well. This isn't even coming from places where people are trying to, they're not just necessarily, they just want their children to be happy. So it's possible we learn to show happiness, even if we actually are just not. Or something's wrong at school, don't show it. Something's wrong and so on. And we must have all had it. The idea that children get on with other children. Why? You wouldn't do that with adults. You wouldn't say, well, go on, go and play with the other people in the pub, go talk to the other people in the pub, even though you don't know them. So why do it with children? And children will pick up that there's something wrong with them, rather than be able to say, I don't want to. I don't feel good doing it. We hear it often, may have happened to you. If you keep doing that, we're not going to go home. If you keep doing that, we're not going to go on that trip. If you keep doing that, I'm going to be really annoyed with you if you keep doing that. So whatever your feelings are, don't show them. Don't let them come out in actions. Just don't. So there it is. Of course, there's the go to your room. Some people have experienced that. It can seem reasonable. Somebody's a 2-year-old is, this is the thing. The 2-year-old is doing the terrible twos, and the idea is they're misbehaving. If people could understand the behavioral neurology behind the terrible twos, they'd just want to give that little 2-year-old a hug. They have no control over what they're feeling and doing. And so there it starts as well. You're doing something wrong. Don't show those feelings. Go to your room and hide them. Come back out when you're feeling better. Put that into the workplace, and you can see the sort of adult version of it is complicated. What else do I get? People who grow up with siblings, they were always the easy one. There was a tricky sibling, so they were always the easy one. Parents smiled at them because they didn't cause them any trouble. So start to not show these things. And it's all there. We're carrying it around everywhere, into the workplace and so on. Yep, you have a 3-year-old and it's hard. Okay, so the next slide, please, Hannah. And do keep these comments coming. They're great. Friends and social groups. Obviously, social media is hugely attached to that, but even in not, don't go out with friends if not feeling happy. I hear this more and more and more. I'm not going to go out because I'm not feeling great, and I don't want to spread the misery because my friendship group, it's all, everybody likes to be happy. They've got enough trouble in their days anyway. They feel a burden. People feel burdens easily. To just not be okay when they go out in their social groupings. Again, you can see it, the perniciousness of just don't. So therefore, take time off work. You've got all the connections there. Don't go there if you're not feeling great. And the take time off work, you'd be amazed just how much it's just there. I can't cope with just not being what people want me to be. The one who's the life and soul of the party, that can connect with the easy one when they were a child. Just keep people smiling, because that's become your job. And if you don't, people are going to come up and say, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Well, maybe there's nothing wrong. Maybe you just don't feel like being the life and soul of the party this evening. But that doesn't mean you want to be isolated, and so on. Okay, next slide. And all feeding into the most pernicious one of all, what we're telling ourselves. This development of the need to present as cheerful because we're telling ourselves there's something wrong with us. And that is a very difficult thing to shift. And if you're taking it out everywhere and into the workplace, it's very hard to shift, because we're telling ourselves, if we're not cheerful, there is literally something wrong with us. And it almost becomes a fact. And shifting facts back to feelings is a very big part of the therapeutic dilemma, if you like. And that is one. And so, again, this could be, huge, but what do we tell ourselves if we aren't positive all the time? And we're right back to what Hannah was talking about, the shame. There's something wrong with us. It's everywhere.
We have a good
Yes,
comment.
imposter syndrome. What a very, very good point. Thank you. It is. It's right at the root of the development of I'm not good enough. If I'm discovered, if I don't show myself to be positive all the time, and I'm discovered, they'll see that I'm not good enough. Not they'll possibly think I'm not good enough. Not that I feel that they might think I'm not good enough, but the fact I am not. Very difficult to change in a therapeutic environment, and very difficult to then take back out into a place where one's experiencing it. Okay, I'm trying to watch these incredibly good comments at the same time as make sure I say something next, but I'm loving these comments. They're great. Okay, what next, please, Hannah?
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to say, I really liked the comment from Mel. I was always the easy one. It resulted in me keeping quiet about all kinds, especially the narrative I told myself. So, yeah,
Yeah.
these things can really have a
Yeah.
knock on
And as I'm
effect.
saying, we're carrying these around and into the workplace, and leaders and HR people, that's what people are coming with. And, be aware of that. It's not just happening in the workplace. The workplace might just be exacerbating it. And then people just think, I need to shut down, not go. This is interesting. What's realistic and unrealistic? Hannah, you're going to have to hit some buttons here because they're not.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one, just have a think. Being happy all the time. Realistic, unrealistic. I think I can probably step in fairly quickly here and say I think most people are going to think that's fairly unrealistic. Yes, it is unrealistic, isn't it? I'm busy reading the things. I'm sorry. I will stop looking down and carry on talking. It's just there's such good comments. So being happy all the time, not only is it unrealistic, it is unhealthy therapeutically to even feel that it is a norm. It is not. It is not who we are. We would not grow. We would not develop resilience. We would not we wouldn't even get the difference between happy and not happy. It would all flatten out if we endeavored to be happy all the time. Okay, feeling low, realistic or unrealistic? I think this starts to, certainly therapeutically, realistic, yes. It starts to move into the category of it is actually realistic to feel low, but people start to say to themselves, I shouldn't go out. I'm not sure I can go to work. I'm feeling low. And now we're into that world of what you're prepared to show and not show. How much it affects you. Yes. Okay. 3, being responsible for other people's happiness. Realistic or unrealistic? Ooh, that's hit a huge button somewhere. Am I okay? Yes, 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 and yes. It is unrealistic. Of course, sometimes it's realistic. Somebody's not well. We're not going to, we might feel that it's okay to try and bring optimism, but we're not responsible. And it is such a huge thing. We really have gone into a society where we feel that we are. And if we, again, it's very pernicious because actually they're responsible for their happiness, not you. But then get it right. If you're constantly going to bring unhappiness to people, well, maybe that's not so fair. But no, you cannot be responsible for another person's happiness. How about hiding unhappiness? Realistic or unrealistic? Realistic. You see, this is complex, isn't it? It depends on the circumstances, and particularly in a workplace. Here we are. It's now we've got a real mixed response here because being responsible for other people's happiness, it was like an explosion of unrealistic. Now I've got a real mixture of realistic and unrealistic. Shouldn't have to. Realistic, and you can see how it taps into everything else, all the stuff of should I, shouldn't I, if I show it I'm going to be causing this. So we try to hide it, but it comes out in other ways. Yes, yes. And of course, as a therapist, I'm going to say that's why people like me are here. Things are coming out in other ways. I'm just going to let some of these chats keep going because this has really pressed a lot of interesting thoughts, hasn't it? Yeah. I think the hiding unhappiness is really the really tricky one. Okay, well let's move on to what I've got there next.
Sure.
The key takeaways. Really, what both Hannah and I have both been saying, really, positively is not the problem. It's there, you can see them all. Forced positivity can silence people. That's what's going to lead to mental health problems, physical health problems, anxiety, panic, being off sick, all of it. So there's forced positivity. So perhaps I remember somebody once saying to me that one of the things they found hardest at work was that they seemed to be expected to live and breathe the message out there, and yet they weren't in a role where they needed to. And I think that's what they were saying, this sense of positivity, like wow, every time I come to work it's giving me purpose and meaning in life. There's a forced positivity because it isn't true. It's okay to walk to work and think I could do with not going today, but doesn't mean you don't go, and it doesn't mean you don't do your work well. Psychological safety, yeah, hugely important. People do need to feel safe. Honest conversations improve well-being and performance. They do. They really do. If people feel safe to not be okay and to not be expected to be okay, it's going to improve everything. It's going to improve their well-being, and it is likely to improve the fact that they don't feel they have to just hide and take time off work just because of that. And as Hannah incredibly pointed out well, small changes in language can have a huge impact. So just be careful. It might mean well, but it doesn't necessarily. Just check the language of meaning well. So from my point of view as a therapist, this is a sort of awareness raising about what we carry around with us and take into work. So I think, Hannah, I'm handing back over to you, am I?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you, Jenny. So yeah, as a wrap up, and as we said, there are physical, emotional, and psychological impacts of everything that we've spoken about today in the webinar. And actually, just to finish off with an example that when Jenny and I were planning this session, the topic of toxic positivity was quite new to me. But I'd recently, I don't know if anyone here watches Race Across the World, but I'd recently started watching it. And immediately I could think of an example of toxic positivity in the show where one of the couples had encountered a bit of an issue, and the male said to the female, "Oh, can't you just be happy? Can't you just be positive? Can't you just get over it?" And she responded with, "Can't you just let me be upset?" Which Jenny told me was an appropriate example. So I thought I would share that with everyone because, yeah, sometimes you do just need to be upset. Sometimes you just need to, let your feelings out. You don't have to be positive all the time. But lastly, then, so I'm hoping that a few of you on the call will have access to the Thrive service already. But if you don't, then please feel free to get in touch and we can have those conversations. But how can Thrive help in the app? So the objective of the service is to detect early on any challenges that you might be facing with your mental health, and we want to prevent them, detect them early, help you with self-management and help to treat those feelings as well. And we do that all within the Thrive service. And the service, we have about an 80 to 87% recovery rate via the help of our lovely therapists and Jenny as well on the call. So we would absolutely recommend to download the service. If you're on the call and you have access, download the service and we can help you get in if you're unsure about what your access code might be. But I'll just leave the last slide up here that if you did want to download, feel free to scan that QR code and download and start using Thrive. But thank you to everyone for joining today. It was really nice to see so many people in the chat. If anyone wants to leave us with any last comments, feel free to do so. If anyone has any questions, feel free to do so. I think that's it from us, Jenny, unless you wanted to say anything else.
No, I'm just thoroughly enjoy being able to be part of raising awareness. I think that the chat's been amazing to see people coming out and what's been coming out, and yes, obviously as a therapist, I'm going to say always talk about it. Do not hide it. It goes nowhere.
Great. Thank you so much, Jenny. And thank you, everyone, for joining. I think if there's any questions, I can see that my colleagues put the help email address in the chat. So if anyone wants to get in touch, you can get in touch that way. But thank you again, everyone, for joining. I hope everyone has a good rest of their day.